Hello everyone, and welcome to Wicked Encounters, where we explore just what goes bump in the night. I'm your host, Allie, and it's every horror fan's favorite time of year, October. In celebration of the spookiest month, I've compiled a list of movies that I think are worth sharing with you guys, and I'm calling it the 31 Days of Wicked Horror. We're on the 9th day of October now, but in case it's your first time checking in, I'll tell you how I've selected these movies that I believe are worthy enough for you to watch. First off, none of the movies are going to be older than 20 years, so we can add some new videos to our must-watch lists instead of continuing to repeat the same ones from 50 years ago. Hello, OG It. Secondly, I'll be providing the synopsis and plot of the movies for those who may not like surprises or just want to listen to know what the movies are about. There's a very angry dog outside. Shut up! There will be a slide letting you know when we're coming up on it, and I'll let you know where it's safe to click on to avoid spoilers. Also, while many of the movies are streamable, I'm not going to really provide the info on where you can watch them because it varies based on where you live, and streaming services love removing and adding movies depending on their season, time of the month, yada yada yada. Finally, I'm going to give you some reasons as to why the movie stands out and why I think you'll like it. So, with that, 9th on our list is Sinister. Sinister is a 2012 supernatural horror film directed by Scott Derrickson and written by C. Robert Cargill and Derrickson, while being produced by Summit Entertainment, Alliance Films, Automatic Entertainment, Blumhouse Productions, I Am Global, and Alliance Films UK Limited. It blends elements of psychological horror with found footage to create a deeply unsettling narrative. The film follows true crime writer Ellison Oswalt, who moves his family into a new home while secretly investigating a grisly murder case. Unbeknownst to his family, the house they've moved into was the very site of a horrific crime, the previous family who lived there having been murdered, and one of their children, Stephanie, having disappeared. I'm going to go more in depth now and go over the plot of the movie, so if you'd like to skip, you'll know where to skip to in 3, 2, 1. The film opens with an eerie Super 8 footage depicting the murder of a family. The family is seen with bags over their heads, standing beneath a tree with ropes tied around their necks. Suddenly, the tree branch is cut, causing the family to be hanged simultaneously. This disturbing image sets the tone for the film's exploration of dark and supernatural forces. Ellison Oswalt, once a best-selling author, is desperate to regain his former success and notoriety. He believes that solving the mystery behind the murders and the missing child will provide him with the material for his next big hit. Despite his wife Tracy's objections, Ellison decides not to tell her or their 2 children, Ashley and Trevor, about the house's gruesome history. As Ellison begins to unpack, he discovers a box of old Super 8 films and a projector in the attic, seemingly left behind by the previous occupants. Curiosity piqued, Ellison sets up the projector and begins to watch the films. What he finds is a series of home movies, each one depicting a different family being brutally murdered in various ways. The films are titled with seemingly innocent names like Pool Party, Barbecue, and Sleepy Time. But each one ends with a gruesome death. A family is drowned in their swimming pool, another is burned alive in a car, and one is tied to their beds and throats slit. As Ellison delves deeper into the mystery, he begins to notice a mysterious figure appearing in each of the films, a figure with a terrifying, demonic face that becomes increasingly unsettling with each viewing. This figure, later identified as Bagul, or Mr. Boogie, is an ancient pagan deity who consumes the souls of children. Ellison becomes obsessed with unraveling the connection between Bagul and the murders. He contacts a local deputy, credited as Deputy So-and-so, who becomes his reluctant partner in the investigation. The deputy helps Ellison connect the dots between the murders in the films, revealing that each family had lived in the house where the previous family had been killed before moving to the location where they were ultimately murdered. The missing child from each family was never found, raising the terrifying possibility that Bagul is somehow involved in their disappearances. As Ellison continues to watch the films and research Bagul, strange and terrifying events begin to occur in his own home. He hears noises in the attic, sees ghostly figures, and his son Trevor begins to experience severe night terrors, including sleepwalking episodes where he ends up in frightening, contorted positions. Ellison's mental state deteriorates as he becomes more paranoid and obsessed with the case, leading to tension between him and Tracy. Ellison consults a professor of occult studies, Professor Jonas, who explains that Bagul is an ancient deity known as the Eater of Children. According to legend, Bagul uses images such as the ones in the Super 8 films as gateways to possess children and lead them to kill their families before taking them into his realm. Professor Jonas warns Ellison that simply watching the films might have already put his family at risk. Terrified by this revelation, Ellison attempts to distance himself from the investigation by burning the films and moving his family out of the house. However, after relocating to a new home, Ellison discovers the box of films has reappeared, along with an additional reel titled Extended Cut Endings. This reel reveals that the missing children from each of the previous families were the ones who filmed the murders and, under the influence of Bagul, carried out the killings themselves. In the film's chilling climax, Ellison watches the new footage, only to realize too late that his daughter Ashley has become Bagul's latest victim. Ashley, now under Bagul's influence, drugs Ellison, Tracy, and Trevor. She then uses an axe to murder them, filming the entire act just as the other possessed children had done before her. The final scene shows Ashley drawing pictures of the murders in her father's office, before being led away by Bagul into the film, where she joins the other children in his realm. The movie ends with a final shot of the box of films in the attic, waiting for its next victim. And with that, the movie ends. Well, hello there! To those who stayed, I hope you enjoyed what you heard enough to give it a watch. And for those who skipped, you're in for a real treat when you decide to give this one a watch. Did you know that for a while there, Sinister was said to be the scariest movie around? Crazy, right? But I bet you're wondering why it made it onto the list. What makes Sinister stand out? For one, Sinister is innovative with its use of found footage. It creatively integrates found footage within a traditional narrative framework. The Super 8 films provide a disturbing and voyeuristic window into the murders, allowing the audience to experience the horror alongside Ellison. This dual storytelling method adds layers to the narrative, making the horror more immersive and unsettling. Psychological horror and atmosphere. The film excels in building a sense of dread and tension through its atmosphere. The eerie sound design, unsettling imagery, and the gradual unraveling of Ellison's sanity all contribute to a pervasive sense of unease. Unlike many horror films that rely heavily on jump scares, Sinister focuses on psychological horror, using the slow revelation of its terrifying plot to keep viewers on edge. The concept of an ancient evil. Bagul is not just another ghost or demon, but an ancient deity. His methods of obtaining victims is unique, and considering it involves watching movies, well, there's a little bit of a meta-horror element going on. Not only is the potential victim watching it, but we are too. Complex protagonist. Ellison Oswald is not a typical horror movie hero. He's deeply flawed, driven by his obsession with fame and success, even at the cost of his family's safety. His descent into madness and moral compromise adds depth to his character, making his eventual downfall both tragic and inevitable. Ethan Hawke's performance brings nuance to Ellison, making him a sympathetic yet deeply flawed character. Exploration of family dynamics. The film delves into the dynamics of a family under strain, not just from supernatural forces, but also from Ellison's ambition and obsession. The tension between Ellison and Tracy, and the impact of the haunting on their children, adds a layer of emotional depth to the story. This focus on the family makes the horror more personal and relatable. Subtle and effective use of visuals. Director Scott Derrickson uses visuals to create a haunting atmosphere without relying on overt gore. The imagery of the Super 8 films, with their grainy, old-fashioned quality, is particularly disturbing, evoking a sense of realism and history that makes the murders feel all the more chilling. The gradual revelation of Bagul's presence in these films is handled with subtlety, making his appearances all the more terrifying. Sound design and music. The film's sound design plays a crucial role in building tension. The use of ambient noises, eerie soundscapes, and disturbing sound effects enhance the horror, making even quiet moments feel threatening. The soundtrack, composed by Christopher Young, blends unsettling electronic music with dissonant tones, adding to the film's ominous mood. Thematic depth. Sinister explores themes of obsession, the corrupting influence of ambition, and the consequences of ignoring moral boundaries. Ellison's pursuit of fame leads to him compromising his family's safety, and the film also touches on the idea of evil being passed down through generations. Cultural impact. Sinister was praised for its originality and effectiveness as a horror film. It has since become a modern horror classic. Its success helped to revive interest in supernatural horror, influencing subsequent films in the genre. The character of Bagul has also become an iconic figure in horror, often cited alongside other classic horror villains. Sinister stands out in the horror genre for its innovative storytelling, psychological depth, and ability to create a genuinely terrifying atmosphere. It combines elements of found footage, ancient mythology, and family drama to craft a horror experience that is both emotionally resonant and deeply disturbing. And that's all I have for Sinister. But don't worry, I have 22 more movies that I'll be sharing with you. What do you think they could be? How do you feel about Sinister being on the list? Would it make it onto yours? How do you feel about the status it had as the scariest movie out there to watch? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to discuss horror more in depth with you all, so feel free to join the Wicked Encounters Discord group. If you like what I do and want to support me, maybe consider liking the video, subscribing to the channel, and clicking the little bell icon so you know when I post. If you want to support me in other ways, maybe check out my Patreon. Speaking of, I'd like to give a big thank you to my patrons, Nakala and Beefalump. You guys are chef's kiss when it comes to supporters. Well, that's all I've got time for today. So remember, I'm Allie, this is Wicked Encounters, and I'll see you next time. Bye!